So it is day 95, I think, of my New Year's resolution to plant a tree every single day in 2023, which is happening just outside Lusaka, Zambia, in my home. And let's get on with it. Right, so today's planting is Prunus persica, which is the peach, which is not from Persia or modern day Iran, it's from China, and there's a whole story behind that, but that's not really what I want to get into today. What I want to talk about today is soil. So here in Zambia, well, a lot of Zambia, we are on the Central African Plateau, and that is one of these, I think they're called cratons, very, very old lumps of the planet that have been swirling around on the surface for a very, very long time. And they have all sorts of little mineral quirks and so forth, but they have another side effect of being that old, which is they tend to be very leached, very poor soils, and that is actually part of the reason that trees are a very good crop here, because whereas a lot of your annual crops, their roots only go down a very limited level, and there are certainly trees whose roots are very, very shallow. The mapani, which is actually a native tree, is one of those, but those tend to grow in valleys which are sedimentary soils, which are sort of younger by virtue of being washed off from somewhere else. But deeper rooted trees can access a lot of the nutrients that basically through billions of years of rainfall have just sunk down through the soil layers until they reach a deeper level. So now if you have a deep rooted tree and it's going down there, it's bringing that up to the surface, and you can be chopping green parts, chopping live branches off those trees as they grow and as you prune them, and feeding the soil surface where you can plant other plants. And this will happen in any soil that is exposed for a long period of time will get very leached, but because this soil is just so very old, it tends to be very nutrient poor in that way. And you do have a couple of other parts of the planet that are very similar in that, and they do tend to create this sort of forest system which is sort of necessary for the survival of the ecosystem, because if that forest goes away and you lose everything deep-rooted, the shallow-rooted plants that have been dependent on that sort of cycle of nutrients from the leaves being dropped with nutrients in and those being broken down at the surface being taken up by plants before they have a chance to wash away. As soon as that forest is gone, that cycle breaks, and anytime one of those small plants dies, or anytime there's some wind erosion or basically the rain washes stuff away, it's gone. It's not coming back. So that's part of the reason that I really think trees are great. Another thing that happens is you get these hard pan layers forming, which is basically when, because of consistent exposure to rainfall and weathering, the smaller particles of soil have all been washed down to a single layer in the soil, and so then you dig a short distance and you reach this hard pan, which then becomes quite hard work to get through. And you will actually see I've dug down much deeper than this tree needs to go in, basically to break that layer so the roots of this tree don't have to fight to that to get down to where the water is often conserved for longer below that hard pan. And yeah, so eventually having enough trees around, having enough life around, having things like mole rats burrowing in the soil and bringing things up, will create a turnover so that system will be less apparent and create less problems for things with shallower roots. But in the meantime, that is just how soils here tend to be. And yeah, eventually, if I do this again in 5 years' time, hopefully you will see me digging in these same areas and getting a nice, rich, dark brown soil. But for now, it is red because it is dead. So because this area is pretty dead and doesn't tend to grow very much at all, and won't take much cutting back to keep this tree nice and visible, it doesn't need a big Dracaena to mark it out, so instead it's getting 3 little aloe, probably Nieriensis, the Kenyan hedge aloe, which should form a nice little barrier around it. They will also have the value of producing red flowers, which will hopefully start to deceive bulbuls, because bulbuls very much are attracted to the pinkish reddish colouring that peaches get as they ripen, and they eat them all. But they also learn, if they see something regularly and it's not food, not to bother about that. So by having the Aloe Nieriensis, which should flower quite nice and red, and then some Cotyledon barbae, which will flower quite orangey red, hopefully they will be less inclined to go, oh look, there's red colour there, there's food, and destroy any peaches that come on it. It won't be foolproof. They are very intelligent little birds, so they will work it out, but it should be at least a start. And then just to make sure that it doesn't get destroyed by chickens, which often use this area, I'm also going to be putting in some bamboo pieces just to basically create a little fence. Those will drop their leaves over the next couple of weeks, and that'll form a nice little mulch around it. Hopefully not a dense dead mulch, because I will be coming here along regularly, watering, adding other little bits and pieces to the mulch as we go through the year, which should keep the soil from getting back to its sort of dead state too quickly. Right, so that should be everything for today. Thank you very much for watching. There is a review coming that will be going up soon, but I'm not entirely sure when, because they have become very long and take a lot of time to edit. They might go down to a monthly filmed review soon, and I'll just go around and check everything every week, and if anything's particularly dire, it will be brought up, but I don't know. But anyway, if you didn't enjoy it, feel free to not tune in again, but thank you for watching this one. Right, so this gorgeous wee beastie is Trithemis, and I think it's Trithemis arteriosa. It should be an immature male as far as I can see, but I'm not sure because females have very similar colouring. But they are a hawking dragonfly, so what they do is, well, when they're young, like most other dragonflies, they sit in ponds and they scurry around and they find anything small enough for them to overpower, whether it's a small fish, a tadpole, sometimes even little froglets and aquatic invertebrates. They overpower it and they eat it, and when they are adults, they sit on a perch and they wait for something to fly past, and they zoom off, and they grab it, and they eat it. And they're very, very effective. I mean, they have been doing this for about as long as it's possible to do anything on land. Some of the first recognisable flying insects are dragonflies, and this one doesn't seem to be having much hunting success today, but they're really just fantastic little predators in the garden, and all you really have to do to attract them is have a pond and not have fish in it.